Hare Krishna. So we'll start today's session by paying our obeisances to His Divine Grace, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of ISKCON. Okay, we are in our journey of chapter 9. And last time we, like we know that chapter 9 has 34 verses. And last time we covered the first two sections of chapter 9. And in these two sections, we underwent the first shloka where Krishna starts with was, what was the quality? Can somebody tell me? There were two qualities which Krishna highlighted, which we need to develop, and why he is telling to Arjuna this most confidential knowledge. We spoke a lot about it last time. So the first shloka highlights about a quality, and the third shloka speaks about a quality.
Faith. No.
I can't hear you, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I think you're saying something.
Faith, madam.
Faith, yes, yeah. So one in the third shloka, Krishna highlighted the importance of faith. And in the first shloka, there was a word which we spoke a lot about, which was anasuyave. What is anasuyave?
Without jealous.
Come again.
Without jealous envy.
Yeah, so non-envious nature, right? So thank you. So these were the two qualities, we spoke, right? So shloka 1, when we started the 9th chapter, highlighted about non-enviousness, and the second shloka gave the glories of this bhakti, right? Which we recited the shloka, right? So there were qualities of bhakti, characteristics of bhakti, which Krishna mentioned. It was Raja Vidya, Raja Dhyam, yeah, Pavitram, Idam Uttamam, Pratyaksha Vadanam, Dharmyam, Susukham Kartum Avyayam, right? So we spoke about this shloka. Then the third shloka Krishna spoke about was about faith, right? Importance of faith. And then we spoke about the googly verses, right? Which we spoke where Krishna says everything rests on him. At the same time, he is aloof of everything, right? So those were the verses which we spoke, 4th, 5th. And then Krishna gives, an analogy of the sky and wind, right? To make us understand, the 4th and 5th shloka. Then in the air, I think we concluded with the 10th verse, which where Krishna highlights, Maya Dikshena Prakriti. This Prakriti is under his, yeah. So that is where we stopped, yeah. Now today we will be covering the third section, Krishna willing, from shloka 11 to 25, yeah. And so because we have spoken about the glories of this knowledge, and because we have spoken about the Aishwarya Gyan, right, affluence of Krishna, now we are going to see that even after knowing all these powers about Krishna, what are the kind of worshippers we have? Yeah. So, so we will go to the third section, which talks about different types of worshippers of Lord Krishna. Now, even after knowing, Krishna is so powerful, his Aishwarya Jnana, both his sweetness and his greatness, right? These were the two things, right, so far which we have learned. Now, even after knowing that everything rests on him, and also knowing, that not even a blade of grass moves. This is the thing which we say, right? Without his will, right? Still, there are category of people who don't respect Krishna's personal form. Right? Krishna. So Krishna states here, why? Because there are different people who see him differently. Yeah. And just like in this, and they always have something to comment about Krishna, different people, because they see Krishna in different ways, right? just like in this material world, we can compare to a famous personality. Any famous personality, we see that there are category of people who have faith, who like, and there are category of people who always criticize, and there are some category of people who are neutral. And there are some category of people, even though this person is so famous, but they prefer to go some other way, right? So similarly, for Krishna, there are different types of worshippers of Krishna. And this section covers this. Yeah. Now, this slide is just to give you a gist as what we'll cover today. This is the whole thing what we are going to cover. Yeah. So we will start with the 11th shloka, where Krishna starts with foolish people first. Remember, he spoke about these mudaha. He uses that word again, mudaha. Yeah. We learned this in 7th chapter. And like we know, 9th chapter is a detailed version of self, right? The flow is the same. The theme is the same, right? So here Krishna again, comes to those kind of class of people, yeah, who consider him as an ordinary person, who think that he has the same kind of material world, as them, yeah. So Krishna calls these kind of people that fools, yeah. Fools consider Krishna as ordinary. This is one class, yeah. Then comes this is where Krishna speaks, and the three kinds of worshippers will come there in the last, yeah. So the 13th and the 14th verse are purely bhakti verses, yeah. So these are the center of Bhagavad Gita. Now Bhagavad Gita has 700 shlokas, right? So 9th chapter is the center, and 13th and 14th are embedded in between, set just in the center. And that's why they are very nectarian verses. Krishna highlights, again about Ananya Bhaktas, about Uttama Bhaktas, and, who worship him constantly. Okay. So then we speak, we see that there are three kinds of jnanis, who worship Krishna. Now, the first class of people are called as Ekatvena. Second class of people are called as Pratakvena, and third class of people are Vishvatomukham. Yeah, Ekatvena. The word itself says Ek, right? So these are the class of worshippers who worship Krishna in oneness. They say that Aham Brahmasmi, that thing. I am myself also. After we die, we liberate, we become one with God. So we are God as well. This is a class of people which we have. Second class of people are Pratakvena. Yeah, they worship in diversity, in many forms, different. So they worship. They are the demigod worshippers. Yeah, Pratakvena. And then Vishvatomukham. So this is the class of people who worship Krishna in universal form. Yeah, we learned in 7th chapter Krishna pervades everywhere, right? How his energy pervades. So they are the class of people. We'll learn a bit more about them today, but they are the class of people who consider, sun as the eye of sun and moon as the eye of the God, mountains as his, arms, so all of that. So, so this is how they imagine a universal form. Yeah. So now, but it is not it's Krishna's universal form. Yes, it is an authorized form. Yeah, it's not something which is not authorized. We have to know that. Yeah, and we will learn more about this. Chapter 11 is completely, the title of the chapter is Universal Form of Krishna. So we'll learn more in detail about Vishvatomukham in or Vishwarupa Upasana, in chapter 11, and Ekatven, that will learn more in 12th chapter. So, if there are something again here which is not clear, it will get clearer as we get into the further chapter of Bhakti Yoga. Yeah. So we will start today's first shloka. Hari Krishna Prabhuji, will you be able to read it? Shloka 11.
Avyajananti mam muda Manushim Tanum Ashritam Paramam Bhavam Ajananto Mama Bhuta Maheshwaram. Fools deride me when I descend in human form. They do not know my transcendental nature as the Supreme Lord of all that be.
Thank you. Thank you. So again, that Muda, Avajananti Man Muda. Mudas don't understand, don't know. Yeah? Manushim Tanum Ashritam. Param Bhavam Ajananto. Right? So, see, overall, it is the word which is highlighted here is the food, right? Mudaha. These were one of the 4 category of people which Krishna mentioned in 7th chapter that they never surrender to Krishna. Because they don't know the nature of Krishna. They just think that yes, Krishna is there, and but he is someone who has a bit of extraordinary powers when he comes into this material. He is also just like he's just like us. He has the same kind of, he doesn't have a transcendental but material body, but the thing is that he has he has a bit of extraordinary power than us. That is what they have the mindset. Yeah? And just like we see here in the picture Shishupal, right? He was one of those, envious, he didn't have that faith, all those characteristics. You say any characteristics, he had that, which is against. And he just thought, he used to call Krishna Mayavi, right? He just thought that he has some Maya power and he does things, but he is just like us, one of us. So same thing with Duryodhana, right? Krishna showed him his universal form when he went as Shantidut, right? He showed him, but he didn't want to. He again thought that, oh no, he's just trying to scare me. He's a big Mayavi. So they are Mudha. Even if Krishna comes in front of them, even if Krishna showcases, that he is God, but they don't get it. That's why they are called as fools. Yeah. So this is, in the verse 11. But we have to understand, how will see Krishna highlights several times in Gita that this non-envious nature, faith is the first thing, right? Even in the devotional stages, we saw first it starts with Shraddha, right? Shraddha, Sadhu, Sang, Bhajan, Kriya. It starts with Shraddha. Faith is the first thing. And we should understand and have that faith on our scriptures. Well, Krishna is not in front of us like he was with Shishupal. But we should understand that our scriptures clearly state that Krishna is the supreme, and we have just picked up some, here, where these are from Brahma Samhita. We have gone through this verse quite a lot of times. Ishwaraha Paramaha Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govindaha Sarva Karana Karanam. So Brahmaji's prayers, yeah. Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the supreme Godhead. He has an eternal, blissful, spiritual body, right? He is origin of all. He has no other origin, and he is prime cause of all causes. Sarva Karana Karana, right? He is cause of everything, all the causes. Yeah. From our material eye, we can see that something, a seed is the cause of the whole plant. No, he is the cause of all causes. So, and he is supreme. Brahmaji also highlights his body is not like us, material. He is Sachidananda Vigraha, full of eternity, bliss, and knowledge. Yeah. So, and then we also see in our Upanishads, yeah, there is a Upanishad called Gopala Tapani Upanishad. Yeah? So the references of the shlokas are given here, but that also highlights that Krishna is Sachidananda Rupaya Krishna. Yeah. So I offer my obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, who is eternal, blissful form of knowledge. So there are several references we can bring. Tam ekam Govindam. You are Govinda. Govinda means, what is Govinda? So, it is go. That word is, it refers to cow or our senses. Yeah. So he is the pleasure. He's the pleasure of senses and cows. Yeah? Again, Sachidananda Vigraha. Yeah. So, and your form is transcendental. Please, we always say Sachidananda Vigraha. What does Vigrahas mean? Form. Krishna is a form. It's not like Ekatven, sorry, like the impersonalist who think that there is no, it's not person. It does not have a form, right? So it is Sachidananda Vigraha. So similarly, Bhishma Pitama, on his deathbed, he, we have this from Bhagavatam, this shloka, yeah. Esha vai Bhagavan Shakshad Adyo Narayana Kuman Mohayan Mayaya Lokan Gudascharati Vrishnishu. This is one of the very important shlokas as well, where Bhishma, he highlights that, that this Sri Krishna, this person who is roaming around here in Vrishnis, covering himself, is no other than original personality of God. He is inconceivable. Yeah, he's the first Narayana, because we know, and we will learn from our scriptures. It's a separate topic altogether, but Krishna's, expands into, 4 first, and then he expands. So Narayana is actually expansion of Krishna. Yeah, just like Mahavishnu, Garbhodaya. These are all expansions of expansion of Krishna. So, but yeah, the thing here is that how even in Bhagavatam, in several places also, we see very clearly how Krishna is the supreme God, right? So the 12th verse, yeah, those who are thus bewildered, the fools, yeah, are attracted by demonic and atheistic views. In that deluded condition, their hopes for liberation, their fruitive activities, and their culture of knowledge are all defeated. Yeah. So such foolish people, they get bewildered, they get confused. It's like they would hear this also, and then they hear somebody else challenging, they get confused. They think, oh no, there is no God, there is nothing. There is like we are. So they are demonic in nature and they are atheist. Yeah. In such condition, whatever they desire, that is what Krishna is saying. Such people, whatever they desire, it doesn't get fulfilled, and they will never be successful. They will be defeated. Yeah. So that's the gist of the 11th and 12th verse, which talks about the fools, yeah, who deride Krishna. They think that he is just an ordinary person. Yeah? Now we come to the center, the cream, 13th and 14th verse, and maybe Kavya Mataji, will you be able to read it?
Yes, Mataji. Mahatmanastu mam partha devim prakritim astriya bhajante ananya manaso gnatva bhutadim avyayam. O son of Partha, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. Bhagavad Gita 9.13. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Yeah, so Krishna is now coming to the center point of whole Bhagavad Gita. So very nectarian verses. And he calls, it starts with Mahatma. Yeah, Mahatmanas. Yeah, Mahatmanas are great souls. That's what Krishna is saying. To Mam Partha, Daivim Prakritim Ashkritaha. Yeah. So Daivin Prakritim. Now Krishna is highlighting here, they are under the protection, Ashrita, of his divine energy. Yeah. Now we have to see these great souls. When Krishna is referring here to divine Prakriti, yeah, his divine, yeah, he's referring to his Antaranga Shakti. Yeah. Now we went through a verse in 7th chapter also. Daivihi Yasha Gunamayi Mam Maya Durukti. Yeah. So that was, he was talking about his, Bahiranga Shakti. Yeah, that is Prakriti, material nature. Here, what Krishna is talking is about, in the center of Gita, he is putting Radharani, which is the Antaranga Shakti of Krishna. So Krishna has placed her just in the cream, just in the center. Yeah, and here what he's saying is, see, that devotees are under the protection of Radharani, right? Whereas 7.14, that was the verse, that also stated about one of Krishna's divine energy. Any energy of Krishna has so many energies. And he mentioned in one of the shlokas that this Prakriti is one of my energies, right? It's not the only energy. Krishna has several, right? And he stated in 7.14 that Maya Shakti is also divine. Why? Because it's Krishna's energy, right? It has to be divine. And and that controls the non-devotees in this material world. But here Krishna is stating the energy that protects the devotee, Ashrita, right? The energy which protects the devotees. So it is his Antaranga Shakti, yeah? So which is Radharani. So both the energies are divine because they are Krishna's energy. It's just that they are given the responsibility, right? They are performing their task for Krishna. So, and when we are talking about these Mahatmas, that's what Krishna is, bhajanti ananya manaso, ananya, always, fully engaged in his devotion. Bhajanti, again that word has come, right? Bhajanti ananya manaso, everything is in service of Krishna. They are completely into devotion service, fully engaged in that, yeah. Jnatva bhutadim avyaya. Jnatva, yeah, they know me, avyayam. Why? That I am inexhaustible, I'm permanent. They know that, So, and bhutadim. So, bhuta adim, that's how you split it, yeah. Bhuta means creation, and adim is origin. So these devotees know exactly that I'm inexhaustible and I am the source of all the creation. That's what Krishna is highlighting. So we are talking about a class here of pure devotees. Yeah. Now, how do these Mahatmas perform? Or how are they? What do they do? This we see in the next verse. Yeah. Now, this is a very important verse, and this time we will be having, I think, 2 verses for recitation, and this will be definitely of 9.14, and I would request you all, to memorize these, some of the important shlokas, because as in when we, when we come across a situation, if we remember these, it builds our faith and confidence. So it is important, and this shloka is really very nectarian. So Ramaprabha Mataji, will you be able to do
that? 9.14 Tatatam kirtayanto mam yadantascha drutavrata namashyantascha mam bhaktya nityayukta upashate. Always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me, these great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. 9.14.
Thank you. So Satatam Kirtayanto, always. What do they do? Kirtayanto. They do chanting glories of Krishna. Yatantascha dhradavratah. Dhradavratah. We have gone through this word of determination. And we gave that example of squirrel and Garuda and, the ocean, right? The determination the squirrel had, right? So they are very determined. Very determined. And yatantascha, so they are fully into it. They are fully endeavoring into it. Namasyantascha mam bhaktya. What do they do? Namasyantascha. So they offer obeisances. And nitya yukta upasati. Right? We know now these words, familiar words, right? Nitya means eternal, always. Right? Yukta means engaged. Yeah. And upasate means they do the upasana, they worship Krishna. Right? So they do, Mahatmas, they do all the limbs of bhakti with determination. It's just not one limb, together all the limbs together, it makes up our devotional, that dhrada, very strong. So we have to just not, if we just follow one limb of bhakti, maybe just chanting. Just chanting helps, yes, but along with it, we need to have, like our deities worship, our prasadam preparation, all of that, there are different limbs of it, right? So with all this, all these, why we have to, each limb of bhakti is equally important. Yeah. And all these together, in the end, what does it result when we do all the limbs of bhakti with determination? The end resulted, it makes our chanting, which is glorifying the Lord, more stronger, right? It's like a contribution, right? It's not a single player match. It's a teamwork. It's all together, right? So this is what we have to try. Satatam kirtayanto ma, yeah, yatantascha dhradavratam. We have spoken so many times. This dhrada, this determination is something which we should always, try, because in spiritual life, this is the key thing: consistency, the determination, dedication. Yeah, this is the key which will keep us going. Otherwise, if there is lack of this, we might really start with a lot of energy, but that doesn't stay for long. And only when you have you have that determination, you continue, and only when you continue, you will see the difference. You will see that it's an inner transformation. You see that transformation in yours. It's not external. It's not at all external, right? It's an internal process. Okay. So that's what we have to learn from these great souls. And who else can be a better example, which we have seen other than Prabhupada, right? He was so determined. When he went to the West, he went with just 40 rupees. At the age of 70, when most of us think, okay, now my children are married, now I'm settled, let me have a nice, stay in my nice home, or let's go to pilgrimage and just, do some devotional service. We can only limit ourselves. But he, at the age of 70, he wanted to, he went to West with just 40 rupees in his pocket. And, and that too in a cargo ship. It is so, we can't even imagine, with the comforts we are at right now, right? Cargo ship, in the cargo ship, he got 2 heart attacks, right? And still he was so determined. He went there. He didn't know people. They were all hippies. They, name the intoxication and they would be doing that. That was the cool there. And he established, this whole Krishna consciousness. In our life, it's so difficult to comprehend at times, because it's difficult for ourselves to turn into a dedicated devotee, right? Determined devotee. And here is a devotee who has, made innumerable number of determined devotees, right? So we have to try and, have that determination as an inspiration for ourselves. Yeah. So with that, we move to, now to the 15th verse, where we talk about the 3 kinds of jnanis, yeah, Ekatvena, Pratakwena, and Vishwatvena. And this shloka is talking about Ekatvena, yeah. So now we will maybe, Reshma Mataji, will you be able to recite this?
Yes, ma'am. Jnana yajnena chapyanye yajanto mamupasate ekatvena pruthatvena bahuda vishwato mukham. Others who engage in sacrifice by the cultivation of knowledge worship the Supreme Lord as the one without a second, as diverse in many and in the universal form. Bhagavad Gita 9.15.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So here Krishna is actually just highlighting this class of jnanis, Ekatvena, yeah. But we will study this in detail in 12th chapter, shloka 1 to 5. Yeah? But for now, for us to understand, that there are these 3, Ekatvena, Pratakwena, and Vishwatomukha. These are the 3 which Krishna is saying. Ekatvena, so these category of people are jnanis, yeah. See, when we say jnanis, they are aware that we are soul, not this body, and they are engaged in sacrifice of, to worship. through knowledge. Yeah? They are aware that this is the material world and we are soul. We should detach ourselves with sense gratification. You know? But they worship the God as one of them. You know, when they think that when we get liberated, we will go and merge into that Brahman, yeah, and we will become one. You know, this is impersonalism, which we call. And even in impersonalism, we have discussed this before. There are two categories, you know, Brahmavad and Mayavad. And you will see when you read Prabhupada's purports, again and again, you know, he really is very strong with, with Mayavad philosophy. You know, he really put strong comments on that. Now, you know, Brahmavad are the class of people that have a thought process of becoming one with Supreme, but, you know, they worship Krishna. But Mayavad, they think that we will become one and Krishna is nothing but a Maya. He also has a material form and he's just an extraordinary power. So that's this difference between Brahmavad and Mayavad. Yeah. Now the next class of people we are talking here, Krishna is talking is Pratakve, right? Krishna, you know, here says, so as diverse in many, means there are many demigods, you know, they are demigod worshippers. And the last one is the Vishwatomukam, which is the universal form. They have a thought process that this whole cosmic manifestation is everything. They cannot think beyond this material cosmic manifestation. You know, they want to worship some form of this cosmos. So they believe in the universal form. You know, and like I said, you know, we will be discussing a bit more of this in 11th chapter. You know, the universal form, where Krishna shows his universal form to Arjuna. We'll learn a bit more about that. Yeah, over there. Now, when we talk about universal form, just to, you know, in 7th chapter, we learned that how Krishna's energy pervades everything, right? The taste of water, you know, and the smell of earth, all of that. Now here, we will see a bit more, you know, detail where Krishna, when we talk about universal form, how is Krishna, you know, Krishna, they see in Krishna as in various elements of sacrifices. Like, aham kratur aham yagnaha. You know, this is the shloka. So, kratuhu means the rituals, you know. So, Krishna is the rituals in the scriptures, he is the sacrifice, you know, he is healing herb, transcendental chant, the ghee, the fire, the act of offering, you know, and he is the father and the of the whole universe. You know, see, father, as in, you can see that he is the Mahavishnu, right? We all are coming out of him, right? And then Krishna also says that I am the mother, you know, the support, the grandsire, right? Mother, you can say it as, you know, we all come out of the navel of Garbhodaka Vishnu, right? And then, you know, grandsire is because secondary creation is done by Brahma. And, you know, and Brahma's father is Krishna. So in that way. So Krishna is again, you know, diversifying here that he is the ultimate shelter. He is cause of everything in this material cosmos manifestation. So he's the father, he's the mother, he's the support, he's the object of knowledge, the syllable Om. We learned this. Om is an impersonal, you know, way of addressing Krishna. Like we compared, you know, calling somebody by name or just by, you know, addressing by Mr. or hello, something like that, right? So, but that is also a vibration of Krishna, right? But it is the impersonal, you know, form. And then Krishna highlights, I am Rig Veda, Samaveda, Yajur Veda, all the Vedas. I'm the goal, the sustainer, the master. So we know this, right? Everything, he's the goal. Where do we want to go? What do we work towards? He's the ultimate goal, right? Going to Krishna as a goal, to Krishna. He's the sustainer and master, right? And the witness as a super soul. He is within us and he is witnessing everything what we are doing. You know, we may be very successfully pretending in front of others, you know, but when it comes to Krishna, he has each one of our account, right? He knows, he's the witness inside, whether we are saying the right thing or not. So I am the abode, we know. the refuge and most dearest friend. Krishna has highlighted this in the 5th chapter, if you remember. Surudham Sarvabhutanam. He's the most well-wisher. He is our dearest friend. And the creation annihilation. Yes, he's the one who creates, and through his energy, the whole world gets annihilated. The basis of everything. I'm resting place and the eternal seed, right? I give heat and I cause rain. I withhold and send forth the rain. I'm immortality, right? Because after that, we go back to Krishna, right? And I am death personified also. In what? As a time. Time is death personified. Okay? I am both spirit and matter. So Krishna is trying to again and again tell us that he is the base of everything. He is giving us everything. So this universal form, you can say that it is in Bhagavatam, it is in detail mentioned, but just to give you a gist, this is this form is worshipped by neophytes, because this can be the first step of God realization, where people worship Krishna in this material form. This is temporary, because when the world is annihilated, we go back, right? So from worshipping, Krishna says, that worshipping in this first step, at least realizing that there is a supreme power, right? In this material, it is the first step for them to get closer to Krishna. It is like worshipping him in this way, you will slowly come to that temporary form of Krishna first. And then slowly you will realize the permanent, which is the personal form of Krishna, right? So then they will have an understanding, as they progress, as they do this, they progress in their knowledge, they progress in their bhakti, and then they will understand that, that Krishna is actually the personal form which is behind all this. Yeah? So that's why in Srimad Bhagavatam it is, clearly mentioned that it is universal form is the first form which is accepted by neophytes who are new, right, to bhakti, right? For them to have understanding. Yeah. Now with that, see, we saw what is the thought process of ekatvena, oneness. We saw. Now we are seeing about prathakvena, which is demigod worshippers. So and this is, I think, in today's world quite a lot applicable, because this is what we see, right, most of the time. So easy to comprehend this. So demigod worship. Trupti Mataji, will you be able to read this?
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Those who study the Vedas and drink the Soma juice, seeking the heavenly planets, worship me indirectly. Purified of sinful reactions, they take birth on the pious heavenly planet of Indra, where they enjoy godly delights. When they have thus enjoyed vast heavenly sense pleasure and the results of their pious activities are exhausted, they return to they return to this mortal planet again. Thus, who seek sense enjoyment by adhering to the principles of the three Vedas achieve only repeated birth and death. Bhagavad Gita 9.20 and 21. Thank you.
Thank you. So we so far always used to say we come back, right? Krishna also mentioned until the topmost planet of this material world, you will have to come back. You have to undergo the cycle of birth, and Krishna is again. Even the last verse which we'll capture today, Krishna will say, if you worship demigod, you will go to heaven with us. If you worship the ghost, you will go there. So it all depends on what you worship. Yeah. And here Krishna is highlighting those who, so see, we know that we have mentioned this many times as well, that Vedas cater to different class of people when we were doing the yoga lab, right? It caters, because why? It cannot be just focused to one class of people, right? Then what will happen to others? So again, it's the kindness of Krishna, sweetness of Krishna, that this Vedas, it captures, the different categories where if there is a karma kandi, it shows it gives you the processes by which they can elevate themselves gradually to sakam karma, and then to nishkam karma, so it is a gradual elevation process. So Krishna is clearly saying here that in this material world, okay, you follow as per the rituals of Veda, you do this ritual, that ritual, and you may get heavenly planets because we are following, right? We are following scriptures, and that's what we learned. The destinations of each of these yoga ladder also we learned. So now what Krishna is saying that, yeah, you collect pious activity by doing these rituals, you go to heavenly planet, and once that account finishes, you have to come back. That's what he said. You will go there, you will enjoy all things, because heavenly planets have delight. That's why in material world, you see, the normal thing which you see in people, they say, oh yeah, swargas ho gaye, they say, right? Swarg, heavenly planets. So that is the thought process. They go to the heavenly planets. Why? Because they enjoy godly delights. There are, n number of provisions which are given to you, right? But when Krishna says, yes, you will get sense pleasure there in heavenly planets. But once your pious activities are exhausted, you have to come back to this planet, and then you have to go that bungee jumping, up and down, up and down. You will keep doing that. And then, we get frustrated, we get tired. But what is the way out? Because we have to undergo this repeated birth and death cycle if we follow this kind of worship. That's what Krishna is clearly stating. Yeah. See, these demigods, each of the demigods have been given different powers by Krishna. We have to respect them for sure. We have to be very clear in our mind. We have to respect these demigods. Yeah. Each of them have been given different powers by Krishna. And they can bestow and grant rewards to people. But they have a limit, right? They cannot give. For example, Hiranyakashipu, he did, penances, and he asked for immortality. And then what did Brahmaji say? I myself am mortal. How can I give you immortality? So they have a limit. Krishna has given each of them limit that they can only grant so much reward and this particular reward, something like that, in categories. So, and in some of the demigods can also give spiritual rewards, and some of the demigods give only material, rewards. But we have to understand this kind of material rewards. What is it gonna build in us? And I think we also learned before that in 7th chapter, Krishna says people worship demigod. Why? Because they want quick results. Now we have to ourselves contemplate more on this. If we are worshipping, we get the result, then we want more of that, because this Maya, illusion will keep on binding us more and more, because we'll develop that greed. Let me do this more so that I get this granted more. And with that, what we are doing, we are eventually, piling up our things to take more and more birth and death cycles. Right? Because the main thing we have to understand, the reward of pure love for Krishna. It can only be given by Krishna and his incarnation, the Vishnu Tattva incarnations. Yeah. So it has to be. So if we worship demigod, then we worship, Krishna is saying, you worship Krishna indirectly, but not directly. Because they are ministers under the king, right? So we are worshipping Krishna even through that. That's why he's saying 3 kind of jnanis who worship me. He still says, yes, they worship me, but indirectly, not directly. So, and what happens? Because people who do that, the worship, what they're worshiping, it goes to Krishna. But the worshipper himself doesn't go to Krishna. Does it make sense? I'll repeat it. What you're worshipping, the worship, what you do, it will go to Krishna. Krishna may grant that based on our desire. But the person who is doing it, the worshipper will not go to Krishna, because it is not pure devotion, right? So yeah. So if we go to same demigods and and say, if we worship these demigods with an intention to get closer to Krishna, with a I was going through one of the hearing something, and say somebody asked, Prabhuji, what can we do when we go to Ganesha temple, or Shiva temple? These are the things which come up, right? Yes, we have to respect these demigods because they're exalted devotees. So they can, we have to respect them, and we have to ask them the right thing. We have to ask them to bless us with high devotion, what they have, and then, that worshipper who is worshipping this to demigods, that, give me that kind of devotion. For example, to Ganeshji, he is the one who wrote Gita. So, we have to worship him, that please give me that kind of intelligence to understand Gita, so that I can go back to Krishna. Then such kind of worshippers can go back to Krishna. Just not the worship, but the worshipper can also. So we have to have that understanding, that it's the difference between a mom. For example, you have a guest at home, or, it's like your child asks for chocolate or sweets, right? The aunt or the uncle, they would just give it, but the mom or the dad there, they might say no, they might stop, right? Because they know they are seeing there might be a reason why they are doing it for your ultimate benefit. Maybe you are been asked not to eat sweets. Maybe you already have a problem which is related. So they measure, they see what is good for them. Only then they. Whereas if anybody else, they just visit you and they would just give it, because they for them your personal benefit, long-term benefit, is not the criteria. Yeah. So only your own father or mother can see that. Same way is Krishna. Demigods, they might give, but Krishna is like the parent. He knows what exactly is good for them on a long run, and then he grants them. So we have to have that understanding. Sometimes even as devotees, there are many wishes which, even we are worshipping Krishna, we are, there are some wishes which we have which is not granted by Krishna. So we have to understand that whatever, this word always I remember, Jai Hari Kare Mama Hita. You have to remember that always. Whatever Krishna is done is for my hita, for my good. Maybe we have only the visibility of this life. That too, in this life, we don't remember if they have something bad which we have done, even in this life, in our childhood, unknowingly, knowingly, we are self-defensive for ourselves, right? We don't see if there is something which we have. But for Krishna, he knows all the lives, millions of lives we have, right? So whatever he grants us based on our desire is, whether it is ultimately good for us or not, and based on our karma, right? Our past. So this is the mindset we should be very clear when it comes to demigod worship. Yes, you might get quick results, but Krishna has already highlighted, yes, you may get quick results, but they are temporary, and they will bind you continuously in this chain of birth and so we have to aim for something eternal. Yeah. And when he is doing something, when something is not happening as per our plan, we want always our plans to work. We have to take it as this is Krishna's plan. There is a reason. Okay. So just moving further. Okay. One of the most beautiful verses and my personal favorite is this one. So 9.22. So ananyascintayanto mam ye janah paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshema mahamiham. But those who always worship me with exclusive devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. So very beautiful verse. After saying about all the different kind of worshippers, what is again Krishna coming to? That if someone worships him with exclusive devotion, that is what he needs. Yeah, exclusivity is again highlighted here. Yeah, Now the picture, um, I I can tell you a story of an acharya, Arjunacharya. His name is Arjunacharya. He was from Shri Sampradaya, yeah, from Lakshmiji's Sampradaya. Now, and this is a story. It's a factual story which occurred 1,000 years ago, back approximately. Now, he was a very pious acharya and a devotee of the Lord. Yeah. Now, every day he used to, he was a Brahmana. Yeah. So every day he used to sit and study Gita, and then after he used to finish his studying, he used to go out for begging, yeah, for food, because that is how the Brahmanical culture works, right? They go out, they ask for food, and whatever they get for that day, they feed their family. Right? And the same picture here of Sudama is given. That was, Brahmanas were, that was their culture. So Arjunacharya, that was his routine: reading Gita, going and begging, the food, and accept whatever he used to get that day. And now when he read this shloka, Krishna says, "Ananyas chintayantoma." Always, think about Krishna. Ye jana paripaste tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshema vahamyaham. This word vahamyaham, yeah. So paryupasate is properly worshipping Krishna, yeah. And nityabhiyuktanam, again, nitya always, yuktabhinam is engaging, right? So fixed in Krishna's devotion. Yoga kshemam vahamyaham. Whatever requirements and protection is, I personally come. Vahamyaham. What does it mean? Aham. So I come personally to fulfill that. And that's what is in the translation as well. To them, I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. So Krishna is saying exclusively here, I give my personal attention to that. Now, when Arjunacharya read this, I was thinking, why will, Krishna come? He felt saying this line that, why will he come, especially for someone, he was thinking maybe because Krishna is supreme, he was convinced about it. He would send some of his devotees or incarnations or, his responsible people to fulfill those wishes. So, but why will he come? So maybe he thought it was a printing copy. It was a mistake in the written thing. And see how mistake, because in those generation you didn't have this printer or Xerox machine or books and all. They used to handwrite it. So he thought that maybe he has written it wrong when it was being copied. So now he scratched that word vahamyaham and he replaced that to karomyaham. Krishna does it, but through his paraphrase. Yeah. Now he read that verse and then he went to take his alms outside. And when he went out, suddenly there were two boys who came on his doorstep. And they came and Brahmana's wife was there, and she asked them, and they said that they were really perspiring. They were very in scorching heat, sun, and they were really tired, sweating. Very torn out. And Brahmana's wife saw them; they were so beautiful, and and they had such a big baggage holding behind their shoulder, on their back. And Brahmana's wife asked them, who are you boys? Why are you holding that? Come and I'll give you something. So the boys said, oh, you don't know, we are, we are Guruji's disciple. They say, Brahmana's disciple, because Brahmana's culture was to teach, preach. So she said, okay, why is this condition of yours? And she could see a mark on the back of one person, of one boy. And they said that, no, we will drop these. Guruji has sent this and we will drop these and we have to go. She said, no, come and, take rest. And she could see that they said, no, he will beat us, if we stay back here. We have to quickly go. And she was like surprised. My husband is so kind, he's so gentle. does he really do this to boys? And she started getting really angry and upset. And she called the boys in, and then she said, just sit here, I'll get something for you both to refresh. And by the time she came out of her kitchen, they left. So now she was really waiting for the Brahmana to come back home. And the Brahmana, that day, it was really unlucky for him. He couldn't get any alms, from anybody to eat. So he was coming back home and he was thinking, oh dear, whole day today has been like that. Morning, that verse, it was still hitting him, that, oh, that didn't sink in me, and now arms are not there. And then the wife starts saying, how could you do this to the boys and all of that? She was really lavishing. And he said, what are you talking about? It's again a bad day that today for a change, my wife, who is so gentle, she's not welcoming me with a smile. She has a grin on her face. So whole day is itself very bad today. So then the wife says, she starts explaining that there were two boys who came and they gave this so much grain here. This grain is enough for us to have for months together, So then he doesn't understand. Then she explains the whole scenario. And then he runs to his book. And he sees that Vahamiham, which he had crossed, it was erased. It was back as it was before, Vahamiham. And then he could understand that it was actually Krishna and Balram who came all the way to his doorstep. They gave him what he was, in need of that moment, even before he could realize that he's not going to get the answer. So they gave, and then, that made him realize that Krishna actually himself comes, So it's all about faith, So the lessons learned here is we should have faith. And we learned in 4th chapter, Krishna, ye yatha mam prapadyanti. Krishna reciprocates. He's a reciprocal Lord, right? He reciprocates to pure bhakti. And this also shows Bhagavad Gita is a living book. You cannot underestimate it. It's a living book. Whatever, as Krishna said, everything is relevant even today. And the words are non-different from Krishna. Krishna is so merciful, right? So with that, it's very important we absorb this, that Krishna is always there. He himself takes care of his devotees, and he carries what we lack. He gives us what we lack, and whatever we have, which is important for us for our spiritual growth, to go back to him quickly, he preserves that. Yeah. So now we'll just come to the last 2-3 verses. And this is about, again, demigod worship. And where Krishna is saying that if you do demigod worship, yes, it is worshipping him indirectly, but it is a wrong way of worshipping Krishna. Yeah. So, Hari Krishna Prabhuji, can you read this?
Yeah, yes, Mataji. Demigod worship, a wrong way of worshipping Krishna. Epya anya devata bhakta yajante sardaya vittaha tebimam eva kaunteya yajantya avidhi purvakam. Those who are devotees of other gods and worship them with faith actually worship only me, O son of Kunti, but they do so in a wrong way. Those who are devotees of other gods and who worship them with faith actually worship only me, O son of Kunti, but they do so in a wrong way.
Thank you. Yeah, see, Krishna is highlighting here. See, in 7th chapter, if you remember, Krishna highlighted that it is he actually who makes the demigod worshippers' faith steady. Right? Why? Why does he make their faith steady when they are worshipping demigods? So that they can gradually elevate themselves to a devotee platform. Yeah. But here Krishna is saying, when they when such kind of worshippers continue, right? What they do, they, even though they worship Krishna indirectly, but it is a vidhi purvaka, a vidhi, not as per the vidhi. So it is a wrong way of worship to go back to Krishna. Yeah. So why wrong way? Because they are not directly approaching Krishna. See, we learned in 7th chapter that Krishna says, artho, arthartho, jignasi, jnani. Anybody can approach him. Even if you have a material desire, approach me, he says. Right? They approach Krishna. Krishna can give it. But when he's giving that 4 categories of people who can approach him, then why there is a need for demigod worship? Because when we go to demigod and worship something, we learn that ultimately who sanctions that grant? Krishna. Anyways, Krishna sanctions what we ask for demigod. Only when Krishna sanctions, demigod can give us. So why we have to go that way? That's what Krishna is saying. It is avidhi purvakam. It's like, we have given some examples to correlate. It's like watering. See, this is a tree. And if we pour water on the leaves or branches, does that nourish the tree? No. The water has to go to the root, right? So when a man pours water on the leaves and branches of a tree without pouring on the root, he does so without sufficient knowledge, right? So we have to understand the same way, our digestive system, right? So how do we nourish our body? If we are hungry, can I ask my hand to eat? Can it absorb the food? No. We have to have a right way to nourish our body, right? To nourish our body, we have to have food from our mouth, and then it goes to the stomach, right? And then to the other limbs, it passes the energy, right? So we have to do it the right way so that we get the ultimate nourishment. Same way, if we do the worshipping in the right way, we'll get the ultimate nourishment. Right? That's what Krishna is saying. And avidhi purvakam for this, again, in the purport, Prabhupada has given this example. We have done this before, a government and different officers under the government, right? So the demigod, I'll just read this. The demigods are, so to speak, different officers and directors in the government of the Supreme Lord. One has to follow the law made by the government, not by the officers or directors. Similarly, everyone is to offer his worship to the Supreme Lord only. Yeah, that will automatically satisfy the different officers and directors. The officers and directors are engaged as representative of the government, and to offer some bribe to the officer and director is illegal. This is avidhi purvakam. In other words, Krishna does not approve the unnecessary worship of demigods. Yes, you can go to demigods, like we said. What should we worship? For higher devotion. We have to go. There should not be unnecessary worship of demigods. That's what Krishna is saying. Yeah, avidhi purvakam. If we give the bribe, then Krishna will not count that. It is a heavy offense. Then. Yeah. Now, yes. So the last 2 verses, last 2 slides. So 9.24. Anything we do, we have to do it to satisfy Krishna. Yeah. And this verse, Krishna again highlights that he is the master of everything. That's why go here and there, just go to him. Yeah. So aham hi sarva yajnanam bhakta cha prabhur eva cha natu mam abhijananti tatvena tashchavanti te. I am the only enjoyer and master of all sacrifices. Therefore, those who do not recognize my true transcendental nature fall down. Very crystal clear, right? We learned even Bhoktaram Yagnatapasam 5.29, right? He is the ultimate, he is the supreme enjoyer, right? Supreme proprietor and supreme well-wisher. Same thing Krishna is saying here, he is the supreme enjoyer and master of all sacrifices. We learned, this thing, 3.9 as well, right? That Krishna says, Yagnapati. Who is Yagnapati? Krishna, Vishnu, right? He's the master of all sacrifices, right? So we have to follow it vidhi purvaka, otherwise we will fall down. Yeah. So The last verse here, which I was saying earlier today, was different types of worship. Again, Krishna highlights those who worship the demigods. What is the destination of these things? He spoke about different kind of worshippers, right? Now he's telling where will we go if they still do it, right? So those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Yeah. Those who worship the ancestors go to ancestors. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. And those who worship me will live with me. So our destination where we'll go depends on what choice we make. What choice we make to accept the object of worship. What are we going to worship? You know, and Krishna is saying the best option, you know, the best choice, not the option, but the best choice is to have Krishna, worship Krishna. Yeah. And you will see, you know, in next section, Krishna elaborates on exclusive worship of himself. Next section, the last section, you know, that he mentioned that he is the ultimate enjoyer, and you know, he's the, you know, one who we have to do the sacrificial offerings and all, you know. Now he's going to exclusively talk about, you know, his worship in the next section, the last section of 9th chapter. Yeah. So with that, we conclude today's session. Hare Krishna.